Welcome back to our channel, where real-life stories and emotional journeys remind us of courage, kindness, and the power of unexpected heroes. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and stay till the end, because today's story will touch your heart and restore your faith in humanity. It began on a quiet summer evening in a small town just outside of Austin, Texas. The streets were calm. Kids were playing with chalk on the sidewalks, and the sun was setting behind the dusty hills. But among the laughter and chatter, one small voice trembled in fear, the voice of an 8-year-old boy named Sam. Sam had been walking home from the park with his older sister, Lily, who was just 12. They took that same route every day, across the small bridge, past the diner, and through the narrow alley behind the convenience store that led straight to their neighborhood. It wasn't far, but that evening, something went horribly wrong. As they turned the corner near the alley, a black van screeched to a stop beside them. Two men in dark clothes jumped out, grabbed Lily, and pushed Sam to the ground. He tried to scream, but one of the men kicked his side before he could call for help. Within seconds, the van sped away, leaving Sam crying and covered in dirt. He ran back toward the diner, his little legs shaking and tears blurring his vision. When he stumbled through the door, everyone turned. The smell of fried food and coffee filled the air, and a group of large bikers in leather jackets were sitting at a corner booth, laughing loudly over their meals. The boy's voice cracked as he tried to speak. They took my sister," he whispered, his voice trembling so softly that only the waitress closest to him could hear. At first, the diner went quiet. The waitress, Mary, knelt down and held his shoulders. "Who took your sister, honey?" she asked gently. "The men, in the black van. They took her. Please, help her." The bikers at the booth stopped laughing. Their leader, a tall man with a gray beard and a scar across his cheek, stood up. His name was Bear, a veteran, a man who'd seen enough of life's cruelty to recognize fear when he saw it. He walked over slowly and crouched down beside the boy. "You said a black van?" he asked in a deep, calm voice. Sam nodded, wiping his tears. "Yes, sir, they went that way. They took my sister." Bear looked over at his crew, 6 men, all seasoned bikers, all part of a club known locally as the Iron Sons. They weren't troublemakers. In fact, most of them spent their weekends fixing engines, helping veterans, and raising money for local shelters. But one thing was certain: they didn't stand by when someone needed help. Bear stood tall. "Boys," he said firmly, "mount up." The bikers didn't waste a second. The sound of heavy boots echoed as they rushed out of the diner. Engines roared to life one by one, the rumble filling the small town street. Sam stood at the window, eyes wide, as the men sped off in the direction of the black van. Mary called the police immediately, giving them the details while trying to calm the terrified boy. But deep down, everyone knew, by the time the police arrived, the bikers would already be miles ahead. Bear and his crew split into 2 groups, scanning every road and alley. The van couldn't have gone far. One of them, Tank, radioed through the group's comms. "Got tire marks heading east toward the industrial zone." "Copy that," Bear replied. "Let's move." They followed the tracks until they reached an old warehouse near the edge of town. The place had been abandoned for years, a perfect spot for someone to hide. The bikers parked their bikes quietly and spread out, surrounding the building. Bear signaled for silence. He could hear faint voices from inside, men laughing, and a muffled cry that made his blood boil. He motioned to his crew. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. They kicked the doors open. The sound of the metal crashing against the walls echoed like thunder. The men inside froze. One of them dropped his cigarette as the bikers stormed in. "What the hell? one of the kidnappers started to say, but before he could finish, Bear's fist connected with his jaw. The man dropped instantly. Another reached for a weapon, but Tank swung a metal pipe across his arm, sending it flying. The third man tried to run, but two of the bikers tackled him to the ground. In the corner of the room, Lily was tied to a chair, her eyes wide with fear and her wrists bruised. Bear hurried to her side, cutting the ropes gently. "You're safe now, sweetheart," he said softly. "Your little brother sent us." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "Sam, is he okay?" "He's fine," Bear assured her with a warm smile. "He's a brave little man." Meanwhile, the police sirens could be heard in the distance. The bikers stepped back, letting the law handle what was left. When the officers arrived, they found 3 men tied up on the floor, bruised but alive, and one scared little girl clinging to a biker's leather jacket. The officers knew the Iron Sons. They'd worked with them before on charity events and local drives. One of them shook Bear's hand. "You did good, Bear. We'll take it from here." Bear nodded. "Just make sure those bastards never see daylight again." The next morning, the story spread through town. The diner where it all began was filled with people talking about what happened. Sam was sitting at the counter with a chocolate milkshake, his legs swinging under the stool. When the bell above the door jingled, everyone turned to see Bear walk in. Sam jumped off the stool and ran straight to him. "You found her. You found my sister." Bear smiled, kneeling down to his level. "We just followed the best lead we ever got, a brave little boy who didn't give up." Lily came in behind him, still wearing a blanket around her shoulders. She ran to her brother and hugged him tightly. The whole diner clapped softly. Even the cook peeked out from the kitchen, wiping a tear from his eye. Mary placed 2 plates of pancakes in front of them. "On the house," she said gently. "You two are safe now." The bikers took their seats again, this time quieter, humbled by what they'd seen. Tank leaned back in his chair. "You know," he said with a grin, "we should hire that kid as our lookout." Everyone laughed, and for the first time since that terrifying night, the world seemed a little brighter. But what happened after that day became something much bigger. A few weeks later, the Iron Sons started a local safety program called Ride for the Lost. They teamed up with law enforcement to search for missing children and offer support to families in need. They didn't want to be seen as heroes. They just wanted to make sure no one ever went through what Sam and Lily did. The community rallied behind them. People donated bikes, gear, and funds. Soon, bikers from nearby towns joined in. It became a movement, one that proved kindness and courage could come from the most unexpected people. As for Sam and Lily, their lives slowly returned to normal. They went back to school, played in the park again, and every time they saw motorcycles ride by, they waved with big smiles. One day, Bear visited their home with a gift, a small leather jacket for Sam, with a patch on the back that read, "Honorary Iron Son." Sam's eyes lit up as he put it on. "Do I look tough now?" he asked proudly. Bear chuckled. "Tougher than me, kid." Years passed, and that story became a legend in the town. People would point to the diner and tell newcomers, that's where the Iron Sons saved a little girl. But what most didn't know was that Bear kept in touch with the kids. Every birthday, every milestone, he was there. He saw Lily grow into a strong, confident young woman and Sam into a brave young man who dreamed of joining the police one day. 10 years later, that dream came true. At his police academy graduation, Sam stood tall in his uniform, his family watching proudly. When it was time to give his speech, he looked out at the audience and spotted an older man sitting in the front row, a man with a gray beard and that same scar across his cheek. Sam smiled and said, "When I was 8 years old, I learned what real heroes look like." They don't wear capes. They wear leather jackets, ride loud bikes, and have hearts of gold. This badge I wear today, it belongs to them too." Bear wiped a tear from his eye. He wasn't a man of many words, but he knew in that moment that the world had come full circle. After the ceremony, Sam walked over and hugged him tightly. "You changed my life," he said. Bear smiled, patting his shoulder. "Nah, kid, you changed your own. I just gave you a little push." As they stood together under the afternoon sun, the sound of distant motorcycles echoed again. The Iron Suns, riding in formation, engines rumbling like thunder across the horizon. They weren't out for glory or fame. They were out to make sure the world never forgot that kindness can roar louder than fear. The story of the little boy and his sister spread beyond their town, inspiring countless others. News stations covered it, people shared it online, and communities across the country started their own safety patrols. All because one small boy whispered 4 trembling words, "They took my sister." And because a group of bikers didn't wait a second to act. Sometimes heroes don't announce themselves. Sometimes, they just hear a cry for help and answer it. And that, my friends, is what makes humanity beautiful. If this story moved you, share it with someone you care about. Because you never know when a simple act of courage could save a life. This is Channel Name reminding you that there's still good in this world, and sometimes, it rides on 2 wheels. Stay kind, stay brave, and we'll see you in the next story.